The 1992 NFL draft class is considered by many to be the weakest class in NFL history. It's one of those classes that, on the surface, seems incredibly shocking. 2 quarterbacks went in the first round, and the quarterbacks combined to win a grand total of 4 games with the teams that drafted them. The Indianapolis Colts had the first and second pick in the draft, took 2 players in the front 7, and got a combined 16.5 sacks out of them for their entire career. And today, the 1992 class holds the distinction of being, within reason, the only class in NFL history that does not have a Hall of Fame player. However, if there's one player from that class that many think should be the first in the Hall, and if there's one player from that class that has a realistic fighting chance of getting in there someday, it's this man right here, Dallas Cowboys defensive back, Darren Woodson. It would not shock me if the man made the Hall of Fame at some point, because the man was one of the best defensive backs of the 1990s, and was a big reason why the Cowboys had a dynasty during that decade. Heck, you can make a legitimate argument that outside of Mel Renfro, that Darren Woodson is the greatest defensive back in the illustrious over 65-year history of the Dallas Cowboys franchise. The man made it to 5 consecutive Pro Bowls from 1994 to 1998, receiving 3 AP First Team All-Pro nominations along the way, and won 3 Super Bowls while finishing his career with 23 interceptions and starting 162 games for the organization across 12 seasons. By the time he retired, he was inside the top 10 in franchise history in interceptions, and today remains a franchise legend and one of the greatest safeties of the 1990s. However, of the 23 interceptions that Woodson made in his career, or 26 interceptions if you count his postseason stats, none was stranger than the one he made in 1994 against the Philadelphia Eagles. You might remember the interception. It might be the defining play of Woodson's career, all things considered. What you might not know is what happened after the interception and what might have been the most awkward moment in the history of the vicious rivalry between the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. Because when you combine really poor stadium planning with a team who just saw their season die right in front of them, and combine that with an unfortunately timed injury, you get whatever transpired over 3 decades ago that deserves a deep dive today. Because this is the story behind Darren Woodson's pick 6, and what might just be, considering the circumstances, the weirdest moment in the history of the Cowboys-Eagles rivalry, in a moment that sounds like it came straight out of a sitcom. Make sure you hit that like button down below, subscribe, hype up that video, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we post on the channel. Because we post every single day on here about the weird and the wacky history of the NFL with stories like this one that you may not have heard of before. So if you like that sort of stuff, then this is definitely the place for you. Thanks in advance for liking and subscribing, and for hyping up the video, and for helping us grow this community. And with that in mind, let's talk about the time that Darren Woodson wasn't entirely out of the woods after the biggest interception of his life. But before I talk about what happened after the interception, we need some context to understand what took place before the interception, as well as the actual importance of the game at hand. It's December 4th, 1994. It's week 14 of the NFL season, and as we're heading down the home stretch, we've got a big game on our hands in the NFC East between 2 of the fiercest division rivals in American sports, with the 2-time defending champion Dallas Cowboys taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a big game for both sides, albeit for very different reasons. For the Cowboys, who are sitting at 10-2, they can not only wrap up the NFC East with a win, as a win would put them 4 games clear of Philadelphia with 3 games to go, but they can keep pace with the San Francisco 49ers, who are also 10-2, for the number 1 seed in the conference, and for home field advantage throughout the playoffs. It's been no secret since the start of the season that the NFC was likely a 2-horse race between the Cowboys and the 49ers, and it was likely going to come down to whichever team had home field. So the Cowboys winning this game would be massive, even if their playoff hopes weren't in any danger whatsoever. As for the Eagles, however, their playoff hopes were in massive danger, as after starting the season 7-2, they had dropped 3 straight games, including a baffling game against the Atlanta Falcons in Week 13 that featured the dumbest thing head coach Rich Kodite had ever done, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. If you win this game, you're in a pretty good spot, as you have somewhat of a cushion on a wildcard spot with 3 games to go. Lose this one and drop to 7-6, and lose your 4th straight, however, and you're on the verge of one of the worst collapses in NFL history. And things seemed like they were all right for the Eagles late in the 4th quarter, as after a 5-yard touchdown pass by Randall Cunningham to Maurice Johnson, they only trailed 24-19. The Eagles then forced a quick 3-and-out, and after a great punt return, the Eagles had the ball in the red zone to start the next drive. Following 2 straight runs by former Cowboy running back Herschel Walker, it was 3rd and 6 for the Eagles at the 8-yard line. Get the first down and potentially get the ball over the goal line, and not only do we have a brand new game, but you have a chance to salvage your season and stop the free fall. Instead, this happens.
Off when the playoffs come around. 3rd and 6. Ball at the 8-yard line. Pressure on Cunningham. Intercepted. Darren Woodson.
That's 6, baby. Nobody's touching him.
He'll go all the way. And this crowd will be silenced.
Darren Woodson, pick 6, ball game. The touchdown gave the Cowboys a 31-19 lead, and the first pick 6 of Darren Woodson's career could not have come at a better time, as right as the Eagles were knocking on the doorstep of the end zone, and potentially knocking on the doorstep of making life hard for the Cowboys to get home field advantage in the NFC, Darren Woodson does that, with the Cowboys holding on and winning the game by that same scoreline of 31-19. The win not only improved the Cowboys' record to 11-2, and not only led to the Cowboys sweeping the Eagles, but felt like the nail in the coffin for Philadelphia's season, as it seemed like there was no way back for the Eagles after dropping 4 straight games. To say that the mood inside Veterans Stadium was somber would be putting it lightly. To lose like that, and to do it against your biggest rival, nothing more needs to be said. However, while this play was the biggest play of Darren Woodson's career at the time, and would be the first of 2 pick 6s for his career, this by itself was not the play that sparked the controversy. Because on the penultimate play of the game, with the Eagles having the ball in their own territory with roughly 40 seconds left and just hoping for a miracle, Randall Cunningham did this.
Jones would see his team play or miss it for the first time. And on the deflection, the pass is caught by Calvin Williams, and he gets to midfield. And all of us...
Now, on the surface, you might not think anything of this play. You might not think anything of the 25-yard completion by Cunningham to Calvin Williams to get the Eagles across midfield. The Cowboys are playing a prevent defense. The Eagles don't have any timeouts. So this is fine for Dallas because the clock keeps moving. And everyone knows that the Eagles have no chance at winning the game by this point. However, pay attention to Darren Woodson after the play. He's kind of slow to get up. He's laying down for a little bit as he landed on that shoulder kind of awkwardly. Keep in mind that earlier in the game, Woodson left with an upper body injury, and although he returned, he was definitely battered by this point, to say the least. So with this man right here, Darren Woodson, slow to get up after the penultimate play of the game and landing kind of awkwardly, the Cowboys decided to do a precautionary x-ray afterwards just to make sure he was fine, which, spoiler alert, he was, as this was nothing serious and was nothing that would keep him out of the action for the following week's game against the Cleveland Browns. Now, in a normal world, this wouldn't be an issue. The team sends the player to the x-ray room, the player gets the x-ray, and that is that. Heck, it happens all the time on a weekly basis today. However, this was not a normal world, because this game was being held at Veterans Stadium. And in case you didn't know, Veterans Stadium is a freaking dump that, despite being a sports stadium, was clearly designed by people who had no idea how sports worked. Heck, the seats in the front row of Veterans Stadium were obstructed views because the people who built the venue didn't realize that players and coaches and staff members stand on the sideline during the game. You can learn more about that by clicking the card in the upper right corner. The facility was so run down and so outdated, especially in 1994, that free agents were actively discouraged from playing in Philadelphia because the vet was that much of a dump. And you can learn more about one such instance by clicking the card in the upper right corner. And I bring this up because instead of going into the tunnel and going down a hallway and then seeing the x-ray room, if you wanted to get to the x-ray room, you had to go through the Eagles locker room and cut across there. It was like a maze. That's not a problem if an Eagles player gets hurt, but apparently the stadium designers never thought to take into account, hey, what happens if a player on the opposing team gets hurt? This meant that Darren Woodson, after essentially ending Philadelphia's season, had to go into Philadelphia's locker room in order to get an x-ray. And it'd be one thing if this was the Cowboys playing the Bengals or someone like that, where there's no rivalry between the teams. But it's arguably the most intense rivalry in football. Philadelphia hates Dallas, and the feeling is 100% mutual. We were only a couple of years removed from the Bounty Bowl, where the Eagles, albeit with Buddy Ryan as their head coach and not Rich Kodite, put a bounty on the Cowboys players and tried to injure them. There was no love lost between these sides. WIP, the prominent sports radio station in Philadelphia, aired non-stop programming in the week leading up to the game about why the Cowboys suck. As one writer said in an article published on the day of the game, it's no wonder that a long time ago, one former Dallas visitor described the atmosphere of playing in Philly as the feeling of being surrounded by a lynch mob. So you were going to have a Cowboys player, Darren Woodson, walk through the Eagles locker room after Woodson ended their season in arguably the most brutal and heated rivalry in football. And to make things even more awkward, when Woodson went into the Eagles locker room, Rich Kodite was leading the team in a post-game prayer. Talk about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. All of the Eagles were down on one knee, huddled around Kodite, and Woodson just wandered in, having no idea what the heck was going on. So, what did Woodson do? In what has to be the most awkward moment ever, Woodson grabbed the hands of the Eagles players next to him and knelt down, also joining in prayer. As Woodson said, "I didn't know what to do. It was so quiet. I was hoping I could get through there. It was just a bad feeling." Kodite was praying with his team and encouraging them to keep the faith and believe in God and to bless them even despite what Darren Woodson did at the end of the game. And all of a sudden, in walks freaking Darren Woodson himself in a moment that truly feels like it's made for a sitcom. Kodite then addressed the team, but as he was about to speak about Woodson, a public relations official told Kodite to not say anything until Woodson passed by because he needed to get an x-ray. You know that sitcom trope where a person is talking crap about someone else and then he says, "He's right behind me, isn't he?" Literally, I kid you not, that's what happened here, as Kodite had to be stopped in the middle of his speech to not say anything about Woodson, because Woodson was in the room due to the poor design of the stadium, and he needed to get an x-ray. If that's not the most awkward post-game of all time, I don't know what is. I have no notes. Absolutely flawless stadium design and level of awkwardness. That went about exactly as I'd expect it to go. 1 minute, you win a game against your hated rival. The next, you're in their locker room, even though you don't want to be, and you're just trying to get through, but you can't because everyone's in prayer. So you have to blend in and hold someone's hand and then awkwardly scoot your way through to get to where you need to be while people are talking crap about you. Honestly, screw it. We can scrap the terrible turf that made the vet an ACL graveyard and cancel the preseason game. We don't need to bring that back. But let's bring back the stadium and rebuild it from the ground up exactly as it was, just so that we get more weird stories like this one. Because the tension in this is too good to pass up. The Link could never do this. Because thanks to however the heck Veterans Stadium was designed, in 1994, when Darren Woodson walked into the Eagles locker room, he discovered that Philadelphia truly was the city of brotherly love. Check out our live streaming schedule for the next few days. We're live every single day on this channel, whether we're covering a sporting event or playing GeoGuessr or just taking your requests. So make sure you like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single time that we go live and so that you can join this community. Also, thanks to all our members and our Patreon supporters who get exclusive perks like their name of the end of each video, members-only Q&A streams, and cool emojis to use on videos and during streams. See how you can join this community and become a member or a Patreon member by clicking the link in the description below.